It's Brent Axe here. Great to have you on board as we are talking Syracuse basketball once again. Yes, it is basketball season. And boy, did we get a close one, a nail biter at the Carrier Dome to start off the 2020-21 basketball season, something that, boy, you didn't even know was possible, right? With COVID-19, with so many teams having games either postponed or canceled, even in the early days of college basketball, just getting on the court is going to be to use a phrase that coaches often use, a one game at a time thing for Syracuse basketball that got on the court today, but it certainly showed out there that they had not been practicing for the past week or so. Syracuse went into quarantine after Syracuse head coach Jim Boeheim tested positive for coronavirus. They had not been practicing and not been doing anything basketball-wise. Were not even allowed in the facility until yesterday, and even yesterday on Thanksgiving Day, Syracuse practiced in the Carrier Dome, and it showed out there today. But never apologize for a win, right? Syracuse beats Bryant 85-84. So what do you say we talk about it here on Facebook Live, presented by our friends at Krause Health? First and foremost, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Hope you had a terrific Thanksgiving holiday on Thursday. It is basketball season, and we've got a little bit of a crossover for a couple of weeks. We'll do some basketball and football post games. So the basketball post games will be here on the Syracuse Orange Basketball Facebook page. We'll be here right after the game, about 10 minutes or so after the game ends. We'll hop on. We'll chat with you. I'll give you more details on this when we get closer, but coming soon, we are going to be expanding formats. We're going to be doing this on YouTube, on Twitter, and some other Facebook social media accounts as well. We're going to be everywhere live and then archived later for you to watch, but we'll tell you about that when we get a little bit closer to doing that. I think we're going to start that for the Rutgers game, which is on December the 8th, but we'll tell you more about that when we get a little closer. But one way or the other, if you're used to watching us on Facebook, come here live after the game, or we do put the YouTube version of this up on our Syracuse Orange Sports page, and you can find it in my recap on syracuse.com as well. Okay, let's talk about the game. Syracuse squeaked by Bryant, the Bulldogs, 85-84. And listen, I know you guys are going to have a lot to say about this game in the comments. I'll hop in there and respond to you in a little bit. This is a good team. Bryant is a team that could win its league this year. They've got some terrific players, notably Charles Pride, the Liverpool native, had a terrific game. They've got some three-point shooters. They've got some size. This is not some kind of lackey team that Syracuse put on the schedule here to start the season. Okay, Bryant's a good team. That aside, Syracuse played awful defense in this game, just awful defense. And this is a thing that carried over from last year. This is a team that gave up about 51% of threes in transition, that gave up 66% right around the rim. It was a bad defensive team last year. There was no way around that, and this was a bad defensive team today. So how Syracuse continues to get better defensively is going to mark this season. Syracuse, and I'm saying that in game one. That's not hyperbole, and that's not overstating it. This team has got to progress defensively if they're going to compete in the ACC and live up to some of that high expectations that they have, according to some people. I mean, they're picked to finish sixth in the ACC. That's outside of a five-team run. Duke, North Carolina, Louisville, Florida State, those top teams. Virginia, who lost today, by the way, to San Francisco. So everybody's having an interesting run here early on in the college basketball season. It's very early in the season. And as we noted, Syracuse had no practice time leading into this game. They were practicing all along, had to take about a 10-day break, and then get out there and play after one day of practice yesterday. But that doesn't change the fact that this team has got to get markedly better defensively, or they are going to struggle. They're just going to have to flat out outscore people this year, which maybe they can do in some cases, but that was telling out there today. Another bad news note to report for Syracuse. Barama Sidibe. Barama got hurt early in the game. We found out in the first half, Syracuse Sports Information Director Pete Moore noted that he had a lower leg injury. He did not return to the game, so we'll see what his status is going forward for the Orange. Joe Girard, not good overall for Syracuse, especially on the defensive side, but had a big three-pointer down the stretch. Timing was everything for Joe Girard. It's like that great line from Dumb and Dumber, and then you went and totally redeemed yourself, right? So Joe with a big three down the stretch for the Orange. Buddy Boeheim leads Syracuse overall with 23 points. Marek Dolezaj, terrific out there for Syracuse. It was interesting because it looked like he fouled out late in the game, but they actually reviewed the foul, found that it was on Quincy Guerrier. Marek Dolezaj gets to stay in the game and hit some clutch free throws down the stretch because, as you guys know, free throws matter, right? So that was big for Syracuse. It was also interesting because on one of the inbounds plays late in the game, Quincy Guerrier ended up getting the basketball on an inbounds play. So that was not a good decision. Bad defense all around. We'll go through the stats here momentarily. A couple other guys struggled. So a lot of first game jitters, a lot of first game stumbles for Syracuse, but ultimately they're going to escape the Carrier Dome today. No fans in the Carrier Dome. As has been the case around college basketball, some will have limited attendance, depends on what state, what situation you're in. But for the foreseeable future, no fans in the Dome. That was odd to see that big scoreboard and the new look of the Dome in play. We've gotten used to it, if you will, watching this situation in football, but certainly going to be odd to watch these early season basketball games. Even those non-conference games will get 18, 19,000 people. You'll have a crowd there, but certainly not in the foreseeable future as we continue to try and weave around COVID-19. All right, let's look at the box score here. Let's look at how things played out for the Orange. I want to start on the individual side of things. Boeheim, as we mentioned, led Syracuse with 23 points. He was, let's see here, so I slide over a little bit on my stats, 4 of 11 from three-point range. He was 8 of 17 shooting the ball overall. Marek Dolezaj, we mentioned, just a terrific game for Syracuse. 20 points, 5 steals on the day for Marek. He had 9 assists as well, 6 rebounds on the day. Also for Syracuse, Quincy Guerrier, 15 points, 12 rebounds, double-double for him in game 1 of the season. Joe Girard III, we mentioned, just really struggled shooting the ball, but hit a clutch 3 late in the game. He was 2 of 9 overall from three-point range. He was 2 of 14 shooting the basketball overall. He did grab 6 rebounds on the day, did have 3 steals on the day, but just a bad day for Joe Girard overall, but timing was everything in that one. Alan Griffin with an impressive debut for Syracuse. The Illinois transfer had 14 points in this game. He goes 3 of 9 from three-point range. He shot 5 of 14 overall in this one. Kadari Richmond looked good in the first half. I'm surprised we didn't really see Kadari Richmond play in the second half, considering something that Jim Boeheim noted at halftime that I'll get into here shortly. But freshman looked good out there. I think he's going to be a heck of a player for the Orange. As we mentioned, 5 points in his debut. So overall, Syracuse shoots 30 of 75. That's 40%. Bryant was 31 of 71. That's 43%. Bryant was white hot from the three-point line for most of for the entire first half, a part of the second half, but did tail off a bit. They finished 13 of 37 from distance. That's 35%. Syracuse was 10 of 35. That's 28%. Compare that to the first half. Bryant was 9 of 19 from three-point range. That's 47%, whereas Syracuse was 6 of 22. That's 27%. That for the first half. From the free throw line, Syracuse was 15 of 21. That's 71%. Where Bryant was 9 of 12. That's 75%. Syracuse just edged out Bryant in rebounds, 47 to 44. A couple of other notable stats in this one. Syracuse with 21 assists to Bryant's 19. Ball movement much better in the second half, but not really what it needed to be. Bryant with 20 points on the day. Syracuse ended up with 13 points off those rebounds. Syracuse with 14 turnovers on the day, and Bryant got 12 points off those rebounds. Bryant won the points on the paint, 32 to 26. That was interesting to see that Syracuse, I mentioned, Bryant's got some size. Not your typical early season kind of fluky opponent here, but Syracuse should certainly be winning that category, but they didn't. And there you go. That's the story from the team stats department. Now, before I react to some of what you guys and gals are saying here in the comments, Jim Boeheim had a really interesting comment at halftime. And let me pull it up for you here. And this was based off of something that Matt Park tweeted. Matt Park, the voice of the Orange, of course, and they always get to interview Jim Boeheim at halftime, and Matt Park's always gracious to send us a quote or two from that. And Here's what Jim Boeheim said. This is via Matt Park. Quote, not practicing in 14 days, you just can't play this game. They should have just canceled the game. We're not conditioned. They've got fast guys, and they're pushing right by us. This is a tough game for us. If we're practicing every day, we're not ready. So that's Jim Boeheim at halftime. They did win the game. And even with those comments, Jim did not sub much in the second half. Syracuse did win the game, but clearly not conditioned, not as sharp, not as active as they should have been. And that's the thing. I have not seen Jim Boeheim's post-game comments yet as we do this, so it'll be interesting to see what he says in post-game about what he said at halftime, what those thoughts were about that. But to just flat out say we shouldn't have played the game, well, then don't play the game. You have some sizable influence in that decision. You can go to administration. You could go to John Wildhack. You can go to whoever you need to go to and say, we're not ready. You know, we just had to take 10 days off. I don't feel comfortable putting my team on the court. Then cancel the game, right? We're in that situation. We're in a COVID-19 world where we're expecting games to be postponed or canceled. So I know that's Jim just maybe blowing off some steam, being frustrated, but Jim tends to be pretty honest about these things too. But I don't like that as a kind of a backdrop or an excuse. If you don't want to play the game, don't play the game. It's understandable. Usually we'd call you a quitter for that, right? But in these times, if you don't feel your team is ready to play, if you don't want to put a team on the court because they haven't practiced for, how many days it was, I think it was 10 days total, then don't put them on the court. So I didn't like that from Jim. We'll see what he says about it in postgame again. Halftime, maybe he's frustrated. Certainly understandable, but I thought that was really interesting that he would just flat out say they should have canceled the game. Then cancel the game. You're Jim Boeheim. You can actually, call somebody and say, we're not ready. We can't play this game. We shouldn't play this game. Okay, so let's see what you guys and gals are saying. All you turkeys in the comments here. Turkeys. Come on, I'm messing with you. Hello to everybody that's saying hello. Mike's in El Paso. Hello, Mike. Hello, Marley. Hello, everybody saying hello. Robert saying, where was the defense? Robert, that to me is something that lack of practice time or not. You got to put your hands up. You got to put hands in shooters' faces. You have got to, Buddy Boeheim a few times. Buddy Boeheim, the coach's son. In situations, he's got his hands at his sides, doesn't have his hands up on defense. I don't care how many days you didn't practice leading into this game. You know what? You got to put your hands up. Basic fundamental things. Active, moving, be where you got to be. I understand it's game one, but these are fundamental things that you learn in the zone defense. So where's the defense? Where's the fundamentals? Right? I thought that was a little disappointing to see that. Jamie's saying, Q and Griffin with the double-double, Marek and Buddy, solid points. And the thing I don't get is why you keep Joe Girard in the game when he was 2 of 14 with way too many turnovers. Okay, I see Edwards saying that. I see a lot of you saying this, okay? And you're absolutely right. The loyalty to Joe Girard, to me, goes too far. Joe's a gamer. Joe plays hard. Had the clutch three, as we mentioned, at the end of the game. He'll always find a player or two to make up for what's going on. But this is not a deep team at guard, so I can understand it in a way. But you know what? Alan Griffin can slide in and play guard. But notably, you've got a talented freshman in Kadari Richmond, who Jim Boeheim has praised, by the way. This is not a situation where Boeheim has typically gone with that, he's only a freshman kind of thing. He has praised Kadari Richmond up and down. And Kadari looked good in this game. He looked like he belonged out there. If it's one thing, if he's struggling, he looks lost, he's a freshman, get off the court. That was not the case. So to answer a lot of you in the comments right now, he shouldn't have been out there as much. And for Jim to make that comment at halftime about conditioning, about we shouldn't have been out there, they should have canceled this game, and then you barely make any substitutions in the second half, I thought that was notable. I thought that was notable because Jim, of course, is pretty stubborn when it comes to his rotation, 6, 7, 8 guys. I'm not really expecting him to break that mold this year, but in this circumstance, in this game, if you didn't have that practice time leading in, not only is a player struggling, but conditioning-wise, if you're not there, then you've got to substitute more. When you have a talented player like Kadari Richmond to spell Joe Girard. If you want Joe Girard in key spots, if you want Girard in late in the game, if you feel like you want your veteran in there over your freshman, totally understandable. And Joe hit that three, as we mentioned, so he wasn't a complete waste out there. But Jim talks out of both sides of his mouth sometimes, right? Like, if you're in that spot, then follow your own advice and substitute more. I like Joe, and he's a great player, but he wasn't playing well. And Jim is, somebody brought this up earlier, and it's unfair to compare player to player in this case. But think of Jalen Carey last year. If Jalen Carey struggled for 2 minutes, out, right? Joe Girard was awful. Okay, there's just no other way to put it. I can't candy coat it. It was awful. Wasn't hitting his shots, wasn't playing good defense. He was not playing well. So let me peek in here at the box score. How does Girard, if he's playing that bad, end up playing 34 minutes in this game? So I agree with a lot of you that are making that comment here in the comment section. Just kind of scrolling through here, responding. Hello from Canada, Anthony. I love it. I hope things are well up north, my friend. Kadari is not hurt, to answer a question from Jim, but Barama Sidibe is, unfortunately. Barama got a lower leg injury. That's all we know at this point as I talk to you here live after the game. He did not come back in after that happened in the first couple minutes of the game. We got a report that it was a lower leg injury. He didn't even warm up at halftime, certainly didn't play the rest of the game, so something to keep an eye on there. And that is a big thing when it comes to defense in particular. Barama played great down the stretch last year. Look, Barama and Marek really got into foul trouble last year. Marek got 4 fouls again today, so that's something he's got to be careful about. Almost fouled out of the game if it weren't for a review, as we mentioned. But the last 10 games of the year, Barama was terrific. You could see it coming together. You could see the confidence growing on both sides of the floor, particularly defensively. He cut back on the games where he got into foul trouble in those games, particularly down the stretch. So to lose a veteran player like that, both Barama and Marek put on about 10 to 15 pounds of muscle in the offseason, and everybody kind of gets bigger and more athletic as they go through their careers. But they look terrific, and they really worked on a lot of these aspects defensively that they need to be better at. Those are your seniors, and you want them on the floor. So if if Barama is out, I just made up a player, Barek. If Barama is out any period of time, that's going to be a big blow for Syracuse and hard to overcome, because now you got to put Marek in at the 5. Frank Anselm has been getting a lot of buzz in practice early, but he's a freshman. You got to see what he's got. Syracuse just has to be better inside. We mentioned Guerrier had the double-double today. Hopefully he's improving, getting better, and can be more of a physical presence inside. But this team needs Barama Sidibe, and if he is hurt for any significant period of time, that's obviously not good news for Syracuse. A couple more comments from you guys here. Matt says Quincy looks better offensively at the rim. Griffin looks pretty good. Marek looked great. If they can play defense with effort, they just might be all right. Alan Griffin did look good, and we've heard a lot of good things about Alan Griffin, and I don't want to turn this into consistently comparing him to Elijah Hughes, because that's not fair to Alan Griffin, but it's hard not to say, put him right in that role. A guy that can shoot the 3, he showed that today. He can get to the rim, showed that today. Judgment still out defensively, because we got to see him in the zone for a few games before we really know what kind of defensive player he is. But he looked great. It looked like somebody that can contribute, and that was a great move in the offseason to bring in Alan Griffin, particularly to fill in that role that Elijah Hughes, of course, just drafted last week by the Utah Jazz. Congratulations to him, by the way. That transfer market, it makes a big difference. Jim Boeheim used to be one of the most hesitant coaches in college basketball when it came to the transfer market. Now it's normal to get 1-2 transfers a year in college basketball. Blake saying, I was rooting for Braswell. He had his opportunity, didn't hit any of his shots, had some wide open looks. Yeah, Braswell's another guy that's got to step up if Barama is out any period of time for sure. Bruce says JG3 off today. He should not have played 34 to 36 minutes. We went over that earlier. He certainly should not have in this game. Normally you do want him out there that long, but if he's struggling, he's not shooting. Look, defensively, you're going to lose a little bit with Joe Girard. That's just the truth of the matter, okay? But if he's not hitting shots, that's what he's out there to do. get him off the court. This is not one of those shoot. Eventually he's going to come around. No, you got Kadari Richmond on that bench. You got somebody ready to step in for him and be more productive. You got to do it. You got to do it. And the way Boeheim is so loyal to certain players befuddles me, because he's the first person to say that if you're struggling, you can't be on the court, right? Look, Jim Boeheim's a Hall of Fame head coach. He's forgotten more basketball than I'll ever know. But I know a bad player having a bad game when I see one. Joe's not a bad player overall, but I know when I'm watching a player have a bad game that should not be playing 34 minutes. And that was Joe Girard in that game today. And Michelle notes that it was just recently Joe Girard's birthday, right? Was it today? I believe so. Sorry to dump on you, Joe. Happy birthday, my friend. Hope you have a terrific birthday and birthday weekend, but just wasn't have a great game on his birthday today. That could have been it. Too much birthday cake. You never know. Okay, what do you say we cut it off there for today's broadcast? But just a reminder for those of you that missed it earlier, hey, we're going to be here all year. We're going to be doing this pretty much after every Syracuse basketball game. There might be one or two that we may miss due to holidays or things of that nature, but we're planning on being here after every game here on the Syracuse Orange Basketball Facebook page. So like that, if you haven't already, and you'll get a notification whenever we show up after the games. Coming soon, I'll give you more details on this when we get closer. We're going to be live on YouTube and Twitter as well, so you'll have lots of different choices to watch us live. We'll take this, we'll put it on the Syracuse Orange Sports YouTube page. You'll give that a like, so you get those videos archived in case you missed the live chat here. That always available as well in my recap on syracuse.com. Please check that out tomorrow. Please check that, all of our coverage out, from Mike Waters, Donna DeTota, the great photos from Dennis Nett, our full team coverage coming your way, not only for this game, but certainly all season long. We do appreciate you, particularly those of you that subscribe to our great stuff. We appreciate that. But check that out throughout the night here tonight and throughout the weekend as well. Thanks to our friends at Krause Health as well for being a part of these post-game chats throughout the season. So we are going to be right back at it tomorrow, but for football. So flip on over to the football page. Come on back about 3 o'clock or so, whenever that game is over. Syracuse, NC State. The final home game of the season for the Orange. Senior day for Nykeem Johnson and a number of Syracuse football players. So we'll do a little football chat tomorrow after the Orange takes on NC State. That's over on the football page. So come on by for that. In the meantime, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for hanging with us today on Facebook Live. Thanks to our friends at Krause Health.